So happy Thursday, and it is time for the paranormal encounter weekly video. So I was fortunate, and this really awesome person sent me two encounters that had happened to them. So I'll go ahead and start. Um, it was during a mountain biking club weekend getaway, or my for my high school up in Grant County, Colorado. So this person is also from Colorado, which I find is really cool. Most of the guys decided to sleep in a in the yurt the team rented, but the three of us thought it would be cool to test out some bivy sacks we had on hand because all three of us had never really used them. I have I haven't used any of those either. I've always wanted to. We didn't have a fire outside, would have distracted us from the sky and all the shooting stars that were passing above us because of the infamous perpetual fire ban in many places of the Colorado high country. It's terrible. All three of us were shooting the shit and looking at stars, telling stories, when all of a sudden we looked over to the east and a great star appeared in the sky. It was a deep orange light, and I hate to say it, I don't remember which constellations it was next to. At first, we thought it must have been a cool planet that had just appeared, but we didn't think too much of it. We kept staring at it, trying to pinpoint if it was Venus, Jupiter, or Mars, but the problem was we could see Venus, and if I remember correctly, Mars too, which meant we had no idea what it was, and we concluded it was far too bright to be Jupiter. So Mars is always usually red. That's how you know it's Mars. Just to let you know. What began to spook us was when we pulled out a stargazing app and didn't see a match. There were no planets in that general direction, no supermassive bright stars either. And this happened in the fall of 2018. We kept watching it, waiting to see if there was possibly a plane, because they can sometimes appear to not be moving in the sky when flying at a perfect angle, but no, nothing. For like 15 minutes, it stood perfectly still in the night sky. And all of a sudden, while all three of us were watching, it disappeared. We speculated on what this meant for a while before concluding it must have been a UFO, an angel, or something else, and we just went to bed. While writing this, I realized it could possibly have been a supernova occurring, but I figured we would have seen it in the news or heard about it because a supernova visible from Earth with the naked eye would have been something that made national news. Absolutely. The second one, so that's what made me conclude that it was probably a UFO. So, definitely could be. The second one is the one that makes my skin crawl. This one was quite recent and was probably last spring. It happened in my own backyard. It was late March, early April. It was pitch black, and I was enjoying the stars and the clear cloudiness of Fort Collins. On a Fort Collins night, when I saw out the corner of my eye some movement to my right, I was facing west off the porch, and I looked in time to clearly witness a literal swarm of green orbs fly low over the roof of my house, drop even lower across my backyard, and barely clear the 6-foot fence as they then flew over to my neighbors, headed slightly northwest. This spooked me bad. My first thought was, these must be some sort of drone swarm that was either being tested for military or civilian purposes. But I can tell you they were not drones because they were completely silent. And that's interesting because notice in these videos, when I read these letters, so many of these encounters, they're silent. All these things that happen to them when people experience something off or paranormal, it's always silent. So I always find that is a pretty important key point. To my knowledge, there is no way to make a perfectly silent mini drone capable of such flight, let alone the long distance dedicated to flight path these things were taking, which I saw, and it continued on over many houses before I lost sight of them. So these things went really far and still no sound. That's wild. They looked like drones, but they flocked and flew like starlings do when pursued by a predator. Organic. There are military and university research areas nearby, and it's right up the alley of both to build and test something like that but the flight patterns they were taking seemed too erratic and unplanned for it to be a true drone swarm. They were seamlessly weaving in and out of each other's way with no crashing or conflict, like a single entity or a flock of birds. So it's interesting that this person brings up this type of orb. And I'm not sure if I have told people, you know, just in conversation about some of the orbs that I have seen, but I have also seen green orbs, also completely silent, over water. And there is the connection with green orbs and blue orbs having some sort of effect on people with health and that hitchhiker effect. So I don't know what these are, but I find it interesting that a lot of people have seen green orbs, and they're always really small. So really interesting, and I appreciate this person for sending me this letter. If you have anything that you would like to share and you'd like me to read anonymously, of course, feel free to send me an email or a direct message, and I will read it. So you have a wonderful evening.